Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. We have an amazing guest today and someone that I'm so excited to have met. We've known each other for quite a few months now. I want to say probably at least 6, right, Jill? Right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so I'm really excited for you to get to hear all the amazing things that she's going to bring to you today on this episode. And her name is Jill Alban, and she has worked as a marketing director for Handel Group since 2017, leading the team to implement marketing initiatives and partnerships for the company. Simultaneously, Jill became certified in the Handel Method and began coaching in 2018. And she is a hard-working full-time perfectionist, and her biggest aha in coaching came with the realization that only by telling the truth and opening up about her own shortcomings and mistakes could she find lasting, meaningful freedom and self-confidence. Jill started her career in public relations first in the NFL and then at American University in Washington, D.C. She moved to Missoula, Montana in 2004, where she deepened her skills in marketing and communications through the 2 long-held positions over the course of a decade. Firstly, for a regional environmental nonprofit, and second, for a private foundation dedicated to mindfulness. Jill holds a BA in English from the University of Virginia and an MA and MFA in creative writing from the University of Montana. She has extensive experience in the nonprofit and wellness sectors and is a dynamic public speaker and natural leader. She lives with her husband, Grant, on 4 acres outside of Missoula and enjoys long-distance trail running, mountain biking, and fly fishing. I think that you're just so cool. Like, you have so much different experience and so varied, and it's really interesting. Like, I sort of started my career in PR as well. So I love that, I feel like when you and I speak, we kind of get each other because there's a lot of similarities in our backgrounds, well, at least from my perspective anyways.
Yeah.
You probably didn't know that about me, but that's okay. I'd love to know a little bit more about, the journey that sort of brought you to where you are now at the Handel Group.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
It's great to be here and having this conversation. Yeah. So, I have had a very interesting career journey. As a girl, my dream was always writing, and I really enjoyed theater. I also was always really cause-driven and interested in making a difference, never quite knew how. And I think that coupled with just an acute sense of observation. Like, I always really enjoyed people watching and watching friends and family and trying to figure out what was going on. Those were all influences on me growing up, and I was always a voracious reader as well. So I majored in English in college, always really enjoyed school, and then afterward was not exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I had a little bit of that wake up call in my early 20s where, I hadn't put together a real distinct plan for post-college and my own career journey. I did start working in PR, which, PR, marketing communications, is a pretty natural leap for the English major, right?
Yes.
And so that's really where I cut my teeth professionally was, I worked for the NFL. I worked in a university setting, and I bounced around a bit. I worked in Buffalo, New York. I worked in Washington, D.C. I thought about going to law school, and then I met a boy who I would end up being my first husband, which I'm happy to share that story. And we moved to Montana together, and I started graduate school in my mid-20s.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was in my late 20s, early 30s that I really started exploring self-help, wellness. It started for me with yoga. I'll never forget one of my early teachers had a saying that yoga teaches you to stand on your own 2 feet. And for me, that was really true. So it taught me strength and really the first inkling of what I would call awakening, right? Waking up to the fact that we can separate ourselves from our emotions, from our stories, from our inner dialogue, from that place of objectivity and awareness, and begin this journey toward self-growth, evolution. Wow. And so that's really how it started for me. And but I always, on the professional front, I was never like sure that I was exactly in the right fit. I'm like, where do I really want to be going? I mean, I was good at work. I was good at my jobs. I'm kind of a natural project manager. So I was moving ahead and, leading communications efforts at nonprofits, and loved working in a cause-driven way. But for many years was still like, is this actually what I should be doing? So I started working for a private foundation dedicated to mindfulness. And that was really helpful for me because I started to see how working with the mind could really impact results, and sort of shift a person's perspective. And then from there, through that work, I was connected with the Handel Group and with the coaching method of the Handel Method. And that's really when my eyes were opened to both, both how I had been showing up, or I would say even like not showing up for myself and for others in my life, and like really understanding that this is my one beautiful life and my beautiful shot, and like I want to design the life of my dreams. And so my first experience with Handel Group was doing a Design Your Life weekend. It was life changing. I know it sounds trite, but it really was. It was held in New York. At that time, I was traveling a lot for my job, working for the foundation, and so I stayed in New York, did a weekend, and I'll never forget. It was held in Manhattan, and I was staying with a friend in Brooklyn, so I like walked out and took the subway over and was walking out of the station down to her place, and just like looking around at and feeling like I was kind of seeing things for the first time. Like just having one of those experiences where like, oh, I can be an author in my life. I don't have to stay stuck in these same stories. I can really get brave and face my dark side and lighten up about it, all in this effort to evolve myself and live the life of my dreams. So I did the weekend. I enrolled in the coach training program. I was still holding my other position at the time. And then after I'd been in coach training for about 4 months, I was hired full-time by the company to run their marketing department. And I'm now doing marketing, business development, and coaching as well. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's an amazing way to sort of like combine all the different things that you love, but doing it for, a company that you're proud to do that for. I think that's like the dream. You know what I mean? Like that's what people always hope to do in their lives, is to work somewhere and do something that really sets their soul on fire, right? Like that's the goal. Do you find, because you were saying that, you started, this journey sort of with the yoga and that kind of thing in your like late 20s, early 30s, that's when you said, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that that's sort of like a natural time for people to sort of start to dive into this world?
I think so. I mean, right? Like your Saturn returns, whatever, when you're like 28 or whatever.
I just learned about this a couple weeks ago. I was like, Saturn return. I'm like, what's going? This explains everything.
I know. A lot happened for me in that realm, and I'm not sure if it was Saturn return or what exactly, but it was at that time that, I really started down like the path of self-help and exploring different things. It's also when, I moved out to Montana with my boyfriend at the time. We ended up getting married. It really wasn't a fit. I forced him into it. Poor guy. And
if he's listening now,
I know, like we've resolved, we're good. But, and it was like right around that time where I was really facing like, oh, I made a mistake here and I don't want to be in this relationship. And I and through coaching, I was really able to understand my own traits at play during that time. And I have since like faced those up and resolved with him, and had some great conversations that were difficult, but resulting in a lot of benefit. But to your point, yes, I think late 20s, early 30s is a major sort of seismic shift for many of us. I'm hopeful though for, guys that are younger than me, and like the way that the self-help market has really opened up, and just like providing so many opportunities for people to start their journey, whether it's coaching, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, like just this process of waking up to the human condition and understanding your own power.
Mm.
I'm hopeful that more and more people are going to start doing this earlier, because I know, like, if I had started down a path when I was 15 or 16, you know, I mean, no regrets. We're all on our own personal journey, and we have lessons and spiritual lessons to learn. But I do wish I had had access to these tools in 8th grade.
Yeah.
In junior year, you know, like it could have been, would have been different.
It totally would have been different. It makes so much sense that you say that, because it's like, when you face your dark side, when you face your shadows, when you face all of the things that hold you back for so many years, and all these different beliefs that you have when you're growing up, when you're able to face those, then you're able to live more free. You know what I mean? So you would just be living more free at a younger age, and, you know, enjoying your life for longer, and knowing that it doesn't need to be this thing that's so structured and you have to have it all figured out and all these different things, but more of like a trust in yourself that you will have it figured out, you know?
Exactly.
Like an inner knowing.
And for so long, I really constructed a persona of what I thought I needed to be, you know, look like, talk like, sound like, who my friends could be, all of it, right? I really manipulated my persona in an effort to be this quote unquote woman that I assumed meant success or happy.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I was really doing was lying to people, having to spend energy keeping up a persona, right? Which takes a lot of mental and emotional energy to keep that up. It impacted my relationships, and that I always kind of, you know, seemingly was close with somebody, but, you know, always had that thought of, oh, if they knew this about me, or I could never let them know this, or gosh, the whole thing would blow up. And like, really, you know, as a coach, what I now tell my clients, who so many, especially women, struggle with this of like, no, I have to maintain this persona of what I think I should be. And what you're doing there is valuing someone else's opinion of you over what you think about yourself. So exactly right. Like the process of facing my dark side, of understanding like, oh, I am manipulative. I do misrepresent information. I lie. I like to look good. I'm a people pleaser. Just owning that and saying that, you know, with the help of a coach and like kind of working through a process, really freed me up. And just freed me up to take solace and strength in my own opinion, so I can share it freely, you know, both personally and professionally. And there was nothing like coming clean about lies and getting honest about what I really wanted that skyrocketed my confidence like nothing else had. So the Handel Method was different. That's what was different to me about the Handel Method. And the thing that woke me up that weekend was, oh, I've been lying. I've been misrepresenting myself to friends, family, boyfriends, husbands, and it's taken a real toll. But the way out is to go in first, get honest about the dark side, lighten up about it, laugh about it. We're all human, and use my experience to then help others kind of find the same freedom. So that's like my North Star as a coach is I now, and it did not used to be like this, but now I'm like, I am motivated by putting myself out there and like sharing my story in an effort to help free up other people. So
that's amazing. And I think that that's such an important thing, because I think a lot of the time you can start to do the work, but if you don't know how to finish doing the work, it always kind of resurfaces. And I think that, you know, your dark side always kind of comes back here and there every time you're doing something new, trying something new. So, you know, what do you do now, and what do you help your clients do now when they've worked through that story and they know that that's not like a real thing anymore, but it starts to surface up again? And, you know, how do you sort of talk them down and shift their perspective there?
Yeah, great question. It takes work, right? It takes work and it takes dedication. But the cool thing about the Handel Method is we use this like a step-by-step process, and we have specific tools that will work on step-by-step with a person to help them do this. So specifically, I really like to work with clients on what we call traits. And so what we'll start to do with a person is they'll start to just through the course of beginning to understand their inner dialogue and how they talk to themselves. And we have them do what's called a lineage exercise, where you're looking back at some of your parents' traits or the people who raised you, and starting to explore how these traits live in you, how they impact you. And a trait can really live on a spectrum, right? Like you might be let's say like you're a passionate person, right? You care deeply. And a positive manifestation that really, showcases as like you're committed to something, you want to make a difference, like you believe in something fully, you're ready to throw your torso on the train track for the thing, right? Which can be a positive. It can also manifest as a negative, potentially, like that same scenario. Perhaps someone has tunnel vision, or they can't see beyond this one thing, right? Or they might get very controlling about it. So like, it's interesting to play with traits, because the energy of it at its core can kind of go positive or negative, right? And so, but what we start to see and help people understand is how their negative traits are holding them back from their dreams. Okay, so here's a personal example to help illustrate.
Okay.
Like in my first marriage and in my second marriage, right, my sort of a negative trait that was impacting my level of connectedness and feelings of intimacy was I would sort of complain of like, oh, I don't feel comfortable sharing, right? The negative trait was what I'd call a hider, right? It's a default setting where and this is the inner dialogue that goes along with it, of like, I don't want to share. It's too much work to explain the complex feelings around this story. I'm just going to stay quiet. I don't need to let them into it anyway. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And so, and again, I think this is also common around a lot of women who might struggle with like how to put themselves out there. I would often, with romantic partners, really let the guy kind of drive in terms of tone of conversation, topics of conversation, etc. Right? And I would be willing to kind of listen, ask a lot of questions, right? But the end result was often like, I don't feel as connected, or I don't feel like they really know me, right? But I had to really flip it. And instead of playing the victim of like, oh, this guy is doing X to me, I had to really flip that and be like, how are my negative traits at play here? How are my negative traits keeping me in this purgatory? So my coach worked with me on, and this is what I would work on with a client, is like, okay, how do we leash that negative trait, number one? And number two, how do we put actions into place to evolve your trait into what you want it to be, right? So I set for myself a goal of, I want to take that hider into this like vulnerable, invincible truth teller trait, right? And so the promises to leash it were at the time, and it's interesting, when you start doing promises, they really start to build habits, and you really do shift. This was many years ago, but at the time it was like, I promised to do what I called a deep share with my husband every day, which was like something that felt complicated, something that felt heavy, something I wasn't sure he would agree with, something that might feel scary or I was afraid would make him angry. Like I picked something, like just something to share, and practiced then what the result was. And lo and behold, the result was deeper conversation, me feeling like I was in more of a place of agency, feeling safe, feeling comfortable. And so like starting to build that muscle. And then I also had another promise going along at the same time, which leashed the hider and the liar and like the manipulator, of if I do tell a lie, I have to tell the person within 24 hours that I did.
Oh my God.
So in the Handel Method, we use what's called a promise and a consequence to keep you in line. And that's a pretty tough one, but I will say it really worked, and I'm like a funny little liar. I'm not like a big, like tell a big bold face thing, right? It's more, I'll give you an example. It's more like one time I was at the grocery store, and the gal was like, I was checking out, and the gal was bagging my stuff, and I was in a major hurry, kind of stressed out. And I was like, I want to do the bagging myself so I can get out of here. But I didn't want to make her feel bad. So I go, oh, I'll help you with that. I used to be a bagger. And I put the stuff in the bag and walked out. Like, that's a great example of the types of lies I tell. They're like social lubricant kinds of things.
They're not bad things, but they're just not truthful.
But yeah, not truthful. And again, it's like, I have this dream of being impeccable with my word, being a coach, inspiring others. Like I really wanted to nip that in the bud. So when I walked out of the store, I'm like, oh, I did the thing. So I kept my consequence. I called the store and I asked to talk to the checkout girl, and it was hilarious, right? Because I was like, I'm doing this coaching training program and I'm really supposed to catch myself when I omit information or tell lies or tell fibs. So I'm not really a bagger. I just told you that so I could get out of there quicker. And she was like, okay. Like the cool part about that again was just like holding me to account. So circling back to your original question, what we start to do with someone, like when you're working with someone and you've identified the dream and what they want, we start working with someone along a concept of what we call, okay, maybe it's you, right? Which is the title of Lauren Zander's book. Mm-hmm. How have my behaviors, actions, and thoughts contributed to this situation? Because I can't change them. I can't change him. I can't change coronavirus, right?
Truth.
But I can change me. I can change my actions. I can change the types of things I'm doing every day. I can change the way I'm thinking about a certain thing. I can challenge myself to be different. So then it's working with someone to understand certain traits. They start to log those traits. And then you help a person create a promise and consequence structure that's, again, like going to shift them over time. And, once you start using this method for months at a time, sometimes you don't need your promises anymore because you just are doing the things.
Yeah.
Like even the lie promise, I don't need anymore. Like I'm not, like all the reasons behind the manipulation and the persona making have really gone away. I mean, when I get triggered, it still pops, right? I want to hide when I make a mistake. I don't want to admit when I'm wrong, right? And I have to watch it then. But yeah, you start to feel the shift. So.
Oh my God, you said so many amazing things in there. And one of the things that I wanted to pull out from that is the part about accountability and holding yourself accountable. And I think it's, it's easy to say that you will stay accountable to something that you've promised, but if you're working with a client and that person isn't staying accountable to what they're saying they're going to do, what are you doing to make sure that person is staying accountable? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that piece work?
Yeah. I mean, this is the Handel Method and Handel Group coaching. Like it is all based in personal integrity and keeping your promises and keeping your consequences. Like we really believe in that as the core to building the life of your dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, if a client is really having trouble, like they just can't, okay. So first of all, like your promises need to be attainable. Like you can't all of a sudden, you can't just flip the switch. So we work slowly with people to set something attainable. Okay, so I've never exercised before in my life and I want to get healthier. All right, let's start with 1 day a week of a run or maybe every day we walk for 20 minutes. Like you step it with somebody, and it's the same. That metaphor can be applied to different things too. Like if a person really is struggling with confidence, struggling with work and a supervisor, like it's not, you don't want to blow up their life all at once, right? So you want to, it's a journey with a client. Like, you're getting to know somebody, you want to build trust and amicability and really kind of tie your leg to theirs in a 3-legged race. But like when someone is in integrity and starts to get that magical feeling of like, oh, I kept my word to myself this week, even if it was as simple as I drank 8 glasses of water a day and took 1 walk a day, and I said I would do it and I did it, there's an amount of self-pride that starts to build that is really unmatchable. And so when a person starts to feel that, you can begin to challenge them a little bit more. Like, okay, so now that we're doing that, let's build up to the run, or let's start to add more. If a person is like 100% resistant and like from week to week to week is just like failing, it's, there's likely something else going on. And then we'd be trained to like keep an eye out for some other things. But
of course,
I would generally say it's stepping them through, starting to build that muscle of personal integrity that they can then apply in different areas. Yeah.
That's really key what you said there, because I think a lot of the time when you go on a journey to improve anything in your life, a lot of the time, I'll speak for myself, like you want it to happen now. You know what I mean? Like you want it to be figured out now. Like I want to leave this limiting thought and limiting belief like in the past now. Like I want to be over it already, Yeah. But when you don't really take the care and the time to address that specific thing that you need to address, like, I'm going through this right now. Like, there was something that I thought I addressed a year ago and I didn't. And it resurfaced 100%. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, are we still here? Like, we're still in this? Like, okay. But I think that it's important to sort of, you know, remember that it's a process, right? And like, you know, what we go through, you kind of go through always, you know what I mean? But you just happen to learn better tools to help you deal with the things, which is what's amazing with the method, right? That it gives you the real life tools and you actually can implement them on everything that you do and in everything that you're doing. That's amazing.
And especially for love self-help and who are, you know, really starting to see results. Like, you're right, it can get, you can start to feel impatient, right? And you're like, I want it now, right? I want the success, I want the happiness, I want the grandeur, I want the joy, or what I want, right?
I want.
And especially for those of us who think we have it figured out, you know, myself included, like, your traits they're always going to be there. I mean, yes, they can be leashed. Yes, you can have all your promises into place that are really making a difference for you, but they are still there. And the more you upgrade, the more those traits are going to be challenged and you'll be triggered again, maybe in a way you thought you were over, but like all of a sudden you're stretching somewhere else, like in a different area, and this voice is popping again. Like, I haven't heard.
I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50-plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HappinessHappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
Like, I haven't heard that voice in a year, but why is this here, right? You might be stretching yourself in a certain way. So I love to play with that voice of entitlement because I have it in spades, right? I want my success. I want it all now. I want my creative projects. I want my time to myself. Like, there in Handel Group speak, we call that the voice of the brat. And
dang, that resonates.
Yeah. And so one of my traits is a brat trait, and I call it Veruca Salt, which is the character from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know if you're
my God.
She's the one who's like, Daddy, I want them. And oh my God, you know, whenever it's interesting to watch what your triggers are when that voice starts to go. Like, for me, it's like when the going gets tough, when I've been asked to upgrade, when someone calls me out on, you know, an impulsive behavior or a thoughtless action or a careless way of speaking, right? I'll be like, I don't want to deal with this. You know, I don't want to deal with what this means about me. Like, I want my things when I want them now. And like, there's an interesting way that I'll like want to run, right? If I have a hard day at work, I'll be like online, like looking up jobs, right? And it's now, thank God, you know, what coaching has helped me do is interrupt that and now use it as my clue. Like, oh, you're doing the thing where you want your pony tomorrow.
Can't have it.
Let's look at what's really going on here. Actually, when we peel away the onion, you know, your boss challenged you to do something difficult tomorrow, to have a difficult conversation. You don't want to do it because it's hard and it's scary. So like just helping bring your awareness to what's under the voice that's then like driving the crazy train to whatever, you know, maybe have you quit your job, run away from a marriage, whatever, like, you know, and that's all well and good, right? In for people at different stages in life, but like really kind of peeling away the what's underneath there. And is it, oh, I'm actually just chicken to do something, and so my brat is telling me I deserve better and I should just leave. So
that is so crazy because, you know, especially when you say something with like a job or a relationship, someone you're married to, like think about how many times something may have happened that is not the solution. Do you know, like leaving is not the solution. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the grass is always greener on the other side, but you're constantly chasing. This is something my fiance says all the time, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like you're always trying to keep up with the people, you know, next to you, but it's like, why? Not in the sense that he wants to do, like he tells me all the time, he's like, stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, Simona, like stop trying to, you know, all these different things. And I'm like, I'm not trying to keep up with anybody but myself. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, but maybe I just like should think about that a little differently. But you know, he'll say that, and it makes me think, because it's like, you know, think of all the times that we do stuff just because we think we should, and then how many shoulds we like live our lives with, right? We should do this person said this, so I shouldn't forgive them. Or, you know, this person hurt me, so I should just stop being their friend. Like, you know, think of how many things that you can mend in your life, and how much more peace and love and kindness and joy, like you were saying before, you get back in your life when you're able to turn inwards and really address and assess all the things within our own selves that, you know, and then it just makes you a more effective leader, a more effective coach, just better at your job. People want to be around you more, you know, you're more pleasant, and it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to your point, for people to really understand how much we're hiding from ourselves often, like especially when it comes to the job, the relationship, what we think we should have or do or be. And so often we don't take that time, as you're saying, to like really step back and think about what do I really want? Like, what do I want to do with my career? Right? Even if it's scary, even if I don't think I could ever do it, but like, what's my, first of all, what's my truth? Like getting clear about your truth. Like my truth is I'm not in love with this person anymore. Like, and I feel ashamed. Maybe I feel like that means I'm a bad person. But my truth is I don't want to be with that person anymore. Can I leave with honesty, authenticity, grace, and maturity? Yes, but it's going to take some work, and it's going to be harder, quote, in air quotes, than just pulling up and running away.
Yeah.
Right. Which we would say in coaching, like that type of behavior, especially repeated, of like, oh, I see my truth, I can't face it in myself or in this other person, I'm just going to jet, right? If that's kind of happening in a pattern, that's really evident of like, you know, a haunting kind of developing in that area.
Yeah.
So, or same with a job. Like, I don't want to face the challenges here. Like, I don't want to face that I made the wrong call and starting this business. I'm just going to like, so really like stepping back to really think about what's my truth at this moment in time. My truth really is, I want to leave my job. Or my truth really is, I don't want to leave my job, but I'm scared of what I'm being called on to do next. And I don't know how to move forward. Right? I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed, but I don't want to leave. So like, again, just honing in on that truth, and then beginning to get clear on your inner dialogue. Okay, I'm being a chicken. I'm being a brat. I'm being a weather reporter. My liar trait's going nuts. And bringing your objectivity and your compassion to yourself to help guide you through the next steps of managing difficult situations beautifully. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but I like to think about it this way. Like if we're claiming that we want to be a change maker, want to heal people, want to leave the earth better than we found it, right? Which is a big daunting task right now. Right. But if we're saying that I'm that type of person and that's the type of person I want to be, it all starts with how we're talking to ourselves, how we're telling our truths, how we're showing up every day.
Yes. So. Oh my God, 100%. And, you know, especially in the state of the world and the way that it is right now, as we're having this conversation, you know, I think to myself, I've been thinking to myself, like, what's the right way to navigate this? What's the best way to help my clients navigate this right now? You know, because on one hand, you don't want to come off as insensitive, right? To all of the things that people are experiencing, all of the people who may not have a job, all of the changes happening in people's lives, things that people will miss out on or have to reschedule, have to redo, right? So you don't want to be insensitive on that one side. But then like for me personally, on the other side, like my natural way of living is optimism. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't really know anything else, you know? So it's like, how do you balance those two things to not come off as someone who's super insensitive to, and like tone deaf to what's going on in the world, because that's not the case at all. But it's more of like, you know, how can you help people see a different perspective? But like you said earlier, it's a choice. You know, everything we get to do is a choice. And like, we have the choice every single day to have the perspective and what we want to bring to that situation. So anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, like you were saying, like when you lead with your heart first and your truth that's inside you, which takes time to discover and uncover. But when you lead with that first, you can't really go wrong. You know what I mean? It's when you start trying to conform to all of the shoulds and the ways that you should do things or the way that people expect you to do it. Yeah. I think that's when you start to struggle. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's a tall order, and you're right. It takes work. And that's why in the Handel Method, that's the very first thing is look at the 12 areas of life and you write your dreams for each of the 12 areas. And that can take weeks.
Yeah.
We're not used to dreaming. We're not used to stretching. We're not used to being honest about what we really want and what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. That's such a true point. I guess to sort of, you know, spin off of the idea of like honesty, you know, how can we be more honest to ourselves? How can we, you know, I guess how can we be more honest to ourselves in our relationships, love, life, all of that?
Yeah. Okay. So like a couple things. So, you know, first I just mentioned the 12 areas of life, right? You've got love, career, money, time, family, friends. You get the idea. I'm going to focus first on relationship to self and getting honest. And then I'm going to talk about relationships with other people. Okay. And I can talk about, you know, career, money, all in this realm. But
awesome.
When you make so when you're writing a dream for your relationship to yourself, that dream should be, again, an honest description of how you want to live with yourself. What is it like to be inside your mind on a daily basis? Are you having fun? Or is it, you know, or is it heavy? Is it anxious, right? Like, what would the dream be? What would it feel like in there? You can, for some people, it can be helpful to kind of go back to how it was as a child almost, and like remembering when you played by yourself, kind of what it was like to like hang out with yourself and what, you know, this sense of curiosity. So really getting clear first on what you want that space to be like. For most of us human beings, we have similar dreams in this realm. Like I'm accepting of myself. I talk positively to myself. When I make mistakes, I accept it, dust off, and keep going. I give myself positive affirmations throughout the day. I, you know, like that. So first of all, that's your dream. That's your North Star. That's who you want to be to yourself. And so then, and this is harder work, understanding how when we do lie, and each of us as an individual has a different brand of lying. We call it the 7 categories of lies. There's outright lies, there are secrets that you're taking to the grave, there are omissions, there are exaggerations, there are under exaggerations, there's misrepresenting a story, there's, right?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think, I'm like, what kind of lies fit in where?
I had like several favorites, I mean, most of those, but my particular favorite was the misrepresenting. Like I just kind of, you know, ever so slightly like manipulating, right? Or like leaving out a certain detail when I talk to this person as opposed to this person. That was my favorite brand. So if you're on a path and you want that dream of relationship to self, right? You want that space for you. Then it's time to hold your own behavior up to the light and look at, okay, how I'm behaving out in the world, how I'm lying out in the world, omitting, exaggerating, misrepresenting, holding secrets. That's impacting this dream, because I can't ever be fully free with myself. I can't ever fully love myself if I know that I'm engaging in this type of behavior, right? And that can be it was funny. It was like not hard for me to moved through, like in terms of like, I suffered over it, but it's kind of scary. It's a little scary to admit,
Yeah.
you know, that we have a powerful dark side, just like we have a powerful light side. We have a powerful dark side.
Yeah.
That I had to just be like, okay, it's pretty strong. And like that desire to manipulate and look good is really strong. I've got to take it down because I want this beautiful relationship with myself. I want to trust myself, believe in myself, believe that I'm worthy of love. So then, you know, just starting to work with starting the work by, and in, you know, all of our coaching and in the interview, you're like led through how to do this, is starting to log where you're lying like throughout the day, and just starting to like understand your patterns, understand your triggers. Does it happen more with friends, with family, at work? Do you lie more about money or looks or exercise, right? It could be anything in your special mix. And then again, just like holding yourself to account of, I understand the impact this has on me. I'm going to take this down, and starting to put your promises and consequences into place. Okay. So then when it comes to relationships with others and really getting honest out there in the world, it all ties together. Okay. Because all those types of lies that I just mentioned, of course, like other parties are involved, right? Either explicitly, like you're actually telling a lie to someone, or implicitly, like a fear or a worry about someone else is making you behave in a certain way. It's usually what's going on. So it's absolute, it all goes together. So like how you behave with others is going to impact your relationship to yourself. And when you free yourself up and start to, you know, practice what we call the art of honesty, which I'll talk through like the actual step-by-step process, it will lead to more authentically honest relationships, right? It might mean some relationships go away. Like the truth might really be, I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd, and like I've grown away from these people. I don't have the same values, and I need to have a beautiful breakup with 2 or 3 people. Instead of pretending everything's fine, gossiping, lying, resenting them, and then feeling bad about myself for what I'm doing, right? And being in that cycle.
Yeah.
Or, you know, really getting honest with an opinion, a dream, especially with siblings, with loved ones, with spouses, etc. Like that can really lead you to a new level of intimacy. So when it comes to starting to practice how to get honest with other people, like we're not taught that either, right? I know like in my family growing up, like if we were mad or upset or like had something on our mind, it was like, well, go to your room until you calm down, right? Instead of like, and it's just, you know, again, it's just cultural influences or what they were.
For sure.
We weren't given the tools. So in the art of honesty, when it comes, you know, to having a conversation that scares you with somebody else, you know, we call it having a difficult conversation. I don't like to frame it always as the difficult because it tends to sort of color it from the get-go. But it really is like, number one, doing some work on your own to figure out what's wrong in the relationship for you. Like what stories are you holding on to about this other person? This is what we call a laundry list. What gripes do you have? What's the truth about it? What's going on? Like kind of purge it out, get it out. Talk back to it. And again, you can be led through this with a coach or through the interview process, but it's like you're talking back to your laundry list to really figure out, okay, what's really my issue here? What's my truth? The truth is, it really bothers me when you talk about my father that way. Like you've said it 3 times this week. It hurts my feelings, right? Or, you know, once you write down like, he always leaves the toilet seat up, or that's a dumb example, but like you might realize once it's down on the paper, like, you know what, I'm being kind of petty here, whatever, I don't care. And then, you know, creating space for the conversation, letting the other person know that it's coming, not just kind of throwing it on them, asking them if it's okay if you bring up some things. And then there's a couple of skills that you can employ here. And the first one that we use is called what we call cop-to-itiveness. And it's really like copping to your own shit first. And it's, okay, if this relationship has gotten to a place where we're hiding some things, we're feeling resentful of one another, I need to get things off I need to have this conversation. Owning your role and what's going on first does wonders on a number of fronts. Like number one, it connects you to your own agency, right? And the power of maybe it's you, like it's a great superpower, right? Of, oh, I did this, I can fix this.
Yeah.
So like owning like, hey, I've been hiding this from you for 6 months. I want to say that I'm sorry for that. I know that last week when I said X, that it hurt your feelings. I could tell by your body language. I want to apologize. My intention behind this conversation is to apologize to you, to ask for forgiveness. I'd also like to share a couple of things around my mind if you're open to it, and then, set us up for a contract moving forward. And then, yeah, with wisdom and grace, expressing your opinion to the other person and hopefully emerging on the other side with, and a lot of people leave this out, how are we going to move forward, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if my dad really annoys you that much when he comes to visit, let's get a plan going. Let's make sure you have enough time with your friends over the course of the week or meditating or whatever. But I need you here for dinner 3 nights during the week, right? You figure out the structure that's going to work for both people. So
that's really cool.
A little all over the place, but I hope that helped.
No, I love it. I think it makes so much sense. I mean, ultimately, it's like you build your dream with yourself, and then you pretty much have to live in alignment with everything that you say you're going to do. Otherwise, you're not living in that dream to yourself. And then you sort of are letting yourself down all the time.
Yeah, but I will say, like, you're going to trip and fall.
For sure.
So
true.
Even especially us on the path, right, of like wanting to be awakened human beings and wanting to make a difference, and we have to really be careful of I've got to do, we can bring all of our same issues to the tools, right, of like, I have to be perfect, I can't admit when I messed up and did it wrong. It all just kind of comes out and happening again. So as trying to bring lightness to it and understanding, like, oh, okay, Veruca's kind of talking today, and okay, I'm stumbling a little bit. I'm stumbling maybe a little more. I don't want to tell anybody. Right? You can kind of get to a point where, then you're like, okay, I've got to pull myself out of this. I have to tell the truth that I've not been in integrity. I've not been keeping my promises. Let's go ahead and start over. And so that act over and over again, it's kind of like meditation, like returning to the moment.
Yeah.
Returning to the awareness, returning to the integrity is where the power is. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. I love that you said that. Oh. I have one more question for you, and it's a question that I ask all of my guests when they come on the show. Okay. And it's, how could someone begin to create a little more happiness in their day every single day, starting today?
Well, I mean, yeah. So there's the current climate, right, of, when we're recording this, coronavirus is going on, and I know that a lot of people are really feeling a lot of disruption. People and their loved ones are being impacted by the illness. So I think what I would say, and this applies both to this time and also to quote unquote normal or good times, is focusing on those dreams, like spending the time, even if you're like, okay, I'm quarantined with my family for the next 4 weeks. Okay, like, I get it. That's hard. Your routine has been disrupted. You have a lot of added responsibility, but what is your dream for these 4 weeks? Like, what is a specific, measurable, a stretch but doable dream for you, your work, and your family over the course of the next month? It might really be, we do one like screen-free quality night a week. It might be like we emerge from this feeling stronger as a family unit. Again, whatever the dream is for whatever your situation, benchmarking it in time to give yourself like that frame of, what do I want to create in my life for this next month or 3 months or 6 months? Having that as your North Star, those are your desired results. Then that simple act can start to orient your actions and orient your thoughts toward where you want to go and what you want to create. And again, like, happiness for me, and this is what we preach in the Handel Method, is like keeping my word. Like, if I say I'm going to behave in a certain way, I want to keep my word to get there. I understand that I'm a human, that I'm going to slip and fall, but I can always pick myself back up again and come back and be like, okay, I want to be generous in spirit. I want to be patient. I don't want to snap at my loved ones, like keeping myself aligned toward the person that I want to be during this time. Yeah.
Jill, that's so good.
Yay!
Oh my God, I love that so much. And you know, that is the key to happiness. It's turning inwards and living in integrity and everything that you just said.
Yeah. I mean, we can't control what's going on out there. In many cases, you can't even control some things in your very close environment, right? If people are losing jobs or having to switch routines, but you do, to your point, like you do have a choice of what's happening between these 2 years. You know,
so true.
The stories that you're telling yourself every day. And you have the choice to be an author of your day and an author of your life, or to just kind of sit back and, you know, be a passive reporter on it, what we call the weather reporter. The happiness comes from authoring those results.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Jill, where can our listeners find you? Because I know they're going to want to learn more.
The best place to find Handel Group to get started is on Instagram. Our handle is Handel Group. My personal Instagram is Jill Alban. And I'd recommend people check out inneryou.coach, which is where you'll get an overview of what our online course is like and the modules of coaching that you'll learn. We are, for coronavirus, doing half off of Inner You. So you get it for just $325, and it's a lifetime subscription with all 12 of the modules. Yeah. And it comes with a private coaching call, and you get a 6-week coaching group boot camp. So it's very reasonable and very accessible. So if you're looking to get started with life coaching and try some of these tools, it's a great way to get started. And we have a payment plan, so you can pay I think it's like $80 a month for several months. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. This was so fun.
Thank you, Simona. It was really great to be here and connect with you. And I'm so glad that we're friends. And
I know. Yeah. Me too. I am too. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. Definitely have to go back, re-listen to this one again, and pull out all of the amazing nuggets of information that Jill has dropped into this episode today, because it could change your life. It really can. And until next week, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.